Born of the eerie and enigmatic nature of the sea, ghost ships have been objects of fascination for centuries. Many of the stories behind these phantom vessels have historical evidence, explanations, or, at the very least, theories of how they came to be abandoned and what happened to their crew. The legend of the ghost ship Jenny, and how she became known as the Ship of Ice, has remained shrouded in mystery now for nearly 2 centuries. Welcome to Puzzlebox Horror, where we discover and uncover some of the creepiest urban legends from around the world. Join me today as we explore one of the most disturbing maritime legends, the ghost ship Jenny. I'm Macabre Mary, and if you enjoy this video, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave us some feedback in the comments below. One of the earliest substantiated claims of a phantom vessel was one that ran aground on Easton's Beach in Rhode Island between 1750 and 1760. This phantom vessel was known as the SV Seabird, and even though the most well-known account of the story is fictional, it has also been backed by historical records. Another well-researched and factually interesting instance was the disappearance of Sir John Franklin, a British Royal Navy officer and Arctic explorer who, after serving the crown in wars against Napoleonic France and the United States, led an ill-fated expedition in search of the Northwest Passage in 1845. Countless ghost stories are associated with Franklin's vanished expedition, and even now, 2 centuries after his disappearance, the story is just as fascinating and just as disturbing as it was in the mid-1800s. Carl T. Andre was a German geographer and publicist who is probably most well known for linking the failed Franklin expedition and the ghost ship Jenny. As the editor of the Globus, he purportedly was the one that brought these 2 stories together first. In his excitement for the launch of his first edition of the geographical journey The Globus, he was intent on garnering some real interest. His enthusiasm was stirred from his mission to introduce the general public to the exciting side of geography. Clearly, ghost ships are not an impossible concept, although they often feel as if they're something right out of a pirate movie. However unusual or unsettling the events that surround the Jenny may be, the story isn't all that fantastic, which honestly makes it all the more disturbing. The Bohemia, a German entertainment magazine from the 1800s, and potentially the earliest known printed source for the legend, boasts a narrative that is simultaneously more believable and interesting than a majority of the popularly cited sources. Regardless of the differences between the versions, the story remains an eerie example of the destructive capacity of Mother Nature. The ghost ship Jenny was once a regular English schooner, but she would come to be the subject of a legend that remains unproven to this day. The Jenny and her crew would leave their home port on the Isle of Wight and make a successful journey all the way to the port of Callao, Peru. And with one half of their journey completed, the crew of the Jenny would have to sail their vessel through the treacherous waters of the Drake Passage one more time. Except this time, Jenny and her crew would never be heard from again. So what caused this ship's voyage to end so abruptly? The Drake Passage has the roughest seas known in the world. This is in large part due to the fact that the Pacific, Atlantic, and Southern Oceans all converge into this one passage. Pair that with a lack of land masses to create resistance, and you get winds that can reach incredible speeds. All of that adds up to choppy waters that only the most robust vessels can withstand. Throughout maritime history, the Drake Passage has claimed over 800 ships, and with them, the lives of approximately 20,000 sailors. Little to nothing is known about what the Jenny and her crew endured during their travels. Countless versions of their story have been published and since speculated upon, but it is believed that the Jenny began her journey in England and that she left her home port on the Isle of Wight approximately 1 year prior to the last entry in her logbook. The intended voyage can only be speculated upon, but even where the Jenny met her end is vaguely mentioned. However, it is known through each rendition of her story that she navigated the deadly Drake Passage and that her last port of call was Callao, Peru, the de facto port of the city of Lima. From Peru, the Jenny traveled back through the Drake Passage, but this is where her journey, as we know it, ended. It would be quite some time before the fate of the Jenny and her crew would be discovered, and still no evidence of her expedition or her existence has ever been uncovered. Upon further research, neither the ghost ship Jenny, the whaling vessel the Hope, nor a Captain Brighton could be found amongst any of the official documentation of Andre's sources for his 1862 edition of the Globus. The story that appeared in the Globus in 1862 was, however, traced back to the original publication, which had also been anonymously published in the Bohemia on February 14, 1841. In fact, the story had not only been printed in the Bohemia, but at least 9 other magazines and newspapers within the same year. The only significant difference that can be found amongst the different stories that exist of the Jenny is actually the dates upon which everything was supposed to have happened. Some sources say that the last entry in the Jenny logbook is dated from the year 1823, when Brighton and his crew would have discovered the ship in 1839 or 1840. Other sources say that the logbook is dated from the year 1839, and that Brighton and his crew happened upon the derelict vessel during the same year. It is assumed that since none of these publications cite a source for their information, that the initial journalist likely believed the information was authentic when they stumbled upon the story from an oral source. Since no documentation of this story has ever been found in English, there's no document to fact-check it against. So, much like a 200-year-long game of telephone, the details continue to be distorted. Further speculation and theories suggest that the ghost ship Jenny is actually an Antarctic retelling of the story about the ghost ship Octavius. The Octavius not only happened on the opposite side of the globe, but almost an entire century prior to the story of the Jenny surfacing. It's curious but true that many renditions of the legend include details identical to those of the Octavius. The cargo ship turned ghost ship allegedly vanished off the coast of Greenland in 1761. The story tells us of its miraculous discovery 15 years later, where the crew sat frozen in their agonizing final moments, and the captain was found, pen still in his hand, frozen at his desk. More misinformation than facts exist about the Jenny, which makes it a difficult mystery to get to the bottom of. As another example, this photo has been widely circulated with the caption about the ghost ship Jenny, but it's actually a real photo from a different maritime tragedy. It was taken during the Ross Sea Party expedition, a component of Sir Ernest Shackleton's Imperial Trans-Antarctic expedition that took place from 1914 to 1917. This photo was unearthed with 22 other photographic negatives inside of a block of ice in the Antarctic nearly 100 years after the traumatic expedition. The crew endured 2 years of being stranded on Cape Evans after their ship received damage and had to return to New Zealand for repairs before it could finally come back to rescue the crew that remained. The truth behind the ghost ship Jenny continues to elude us, but our sources remain unchanged. The legend, as it appears in both the Bohemia and the Globus, have been translated from their original German into English and are available for scrutiny at our website, which will be linked in the description box below. We hope that you will, as we did, conduct your own investigation, ascertain the details for yourself, and draw your own conclusions. This centuries-old mystery may simply be the evolution of a sailor's yarn into an urban legend, or this seemingly tall tale may have been birthed from true events. New and substantial developments are unlikely to be found at this point, but that doesn't mean that a dilapidated ghost ship named Jenny and her frozen phantom crew aren't still sailing the hauntingly inhospitable Antarctic waters. So, what do you think happened to the Jenny and her crew? Let us know what you think in the comments. I'll see you next time.